Hello, Craig DeLuz here with the Firearms Policy Coalition on this Giving Tuesday, where Facebook has committed to match donations made via Facebook to nonprofit organizations such as the California Gun Rights Foundation. So I want to talk with you about a case that CGF has that's vitally important and could have national implications, but at the very least are going to have implications for the folks in California. And that is our not unsafe handgun roster case, or we call it the roster case. Initially, in the state of California, back in the early 2000s, the state of California put in place this thing called the Not Unsafe Handgun Roster, or the Unsafe Handgun Act, which created the Not Unsafe Handgun Roster. Because, California, they could never deem a gun to be safe, so they'll just say it's not unsafe. Anyway, all that having been said, initially it was about keeping junk guns off the street. Cheaply made guns that were dangerous or could malfunction. It required that manufacturers pay a $200 fee, submit the gun for testing. If it passed the test like a drop test, then it would be put on the list and eligible for sale in the state of California. Well, later they decided, and the anti-gunners decided, that they wanted to try and see if they could pass features. In other words, put safety features in place. And require all firearms to have them. For example, things like a loaded chamber indicator or a magazine disconnect. So these were then made to be requirements for all new model firearms. And so, mind you, every year the manufacturer has to pay a fee in order to keep their handgun on the roster. And so now not only do they have to pay a fee and the firearm have to pass a test, but it has to have these two requirements. Well, once they got that through, then they figured, well, no holds barred. Let's go for something that doesn't even exist, called microstamping. That's right. At the time, microstamping technology didn't even exist. It was a Hollywood futuristic, this will happen one day. So when this technology exists and the Attorney General for the state of California can certify that it actually does exist, well, then the law will go into place and it will become a requirement of all new model handguns. But they didn't just stop there. They doubled down and they said not only does it have to be in one place. By the way, for those of you who don't know, microstamping is where the serial number for a firearm is put on the firing pin, and then so with every round the cartridge is then marked with the serial number of the firearm from which it was fired. So that way, supposedly, when the semi-automatic exchange or expels the cartridge, well, then there'll be evidence as to what firearm was used to commit this particular crime. That's the whole theory behind it. Now, mind you, you know how small a firing pin is. They wanted it, in the state of California, they wanted it to mark the shell casing in two different places, which, by the way, is impossible. But what is not impossible is to get an overzealous attorney general who desires to ban guns, like, Kamala Harris, to certify that the technology was actually effective and that it actually worked. That's right, she lied, because it's not. Not that microstamping itself didn't work, but the fact in particular that it was available and you could mark it twice. That's what she certified was available or possible. Well, then the California's not, well, after a few legal delays, where an individual who a friend of gun owners, we'll say, Mr. I won't say his name. I don't know if he wants his name said, so I won't. But anyway, needless to say, someone tied up the patent, and that delayed the implementation of the handgun roster. But eventually, once that patent expired, the law went into effect. And then all new model handguns or semi-automatic handguns in the state of California would then be required to have microstamping in two different places. Well, guess what? Nobody does that. Absolutely, positively, nobody in the entire country, entire world does that, has this technology. So what that meant was that there would be no more new model handgun sales in the state of California. Now, not only did they do that, but they went a step further. And this is what I mean by that. So if someone had a firearm that they manufactured and they changed a supplier, well, that was then considered a new model handgun, even though it was designed before the law took effect, even though it was already on the roster, because you changed a spring, because you changed a color, it now was considered a new firearm and therefore had to have the new features requirements, including microstamping. So not only did the roster of firearms available for sale in the state of California not grow, but it actually started to decrease. Right? As manufacturers stopped manufacturing new model or old models of firearms, because guess what? They came up with something newer, better, safer. Then all of a sudden those, or even here's an even better one. They just decided that they weren't going to pay the $200 fee anymore. That handgun then fell off the roster and was no longer available for sale by FFLs in the state of California. In essence, what it has turned into is a ban on all new model semi-automatic handguns in the state of California. And that's why we need to stop. That's why we need to stop this roster. Because guess what? Other states are looking at implementing a very similar type of roster. Because guess what? That's what they want to do. They want to eventually ban all firearms. So they're starting with the evil black rifles. And then they're going to come after the semi-automatic handguns. And then eventually they'll go after all handguns. So, folks, that's why we need your support. Right now, we've filed a cert petition before SCOTUS, so we could hear something anytime that they could hear this case. And if that's the case, if they take it, it's going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars for us to continue litigating this, even before the Supreme Court. So we need your help. Here's what we need you to do. If you're watching this on Facebook, it's real simple. Just click on the donate button right there. And once again, your donation will be matched by Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, well, you need to follow the link in the description to this video. Then you'll see the donate button and then go ahead and donate. It's really that simple. And oh, by the way, make sure you encourage your friends to do the same. Anyway, folks, hey, that's going to be it for right now, but we'll be back talking about more work from fantastic Pro 2A organizations like the California Gun Rights Foundation and the Firearms Policy Foundation. You guys take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.